All right, today we are going to start graphing inequalities. So label your notes, please. Label your notes as graphing systems. And when I say systems, that just means it's going to be more than one line. Graphing systems of inequalities. When you graph systems of inequalities, you're going to start off by graphing exactly the same way that you did yesterday when you were just graphing lines. So let's say, for example, that I am asking you to graph y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 3. So what you need to do is algebraically find a couple of values that would sit on that line, or you can just go to y equals, locate a couple of points on your table that will work. So for example, when you type in 2x minus 3 into your calculator, the point 0, negative 3 will fall on your line, and so will the point 3, comma 3. I'm going to plot those 2 points. It gets me a point right here, 0, negative 3, and then 3, 3 is this point right here. And then I'm going to connect them. Make sure when you connect your points that you are using a straight edge. My line is not going to be great. I am not using a straight edge right now. Please make sure that you guys are using a straight edge. Now, we need to go back to the symbol. The symbol says greater than or equal to. That means that you are talking about, or you need to consider the area on that graph that is greater than or equal to 2x minus 3. When you consider that part, what you need to do is shade it in, but make sure when you shade it in, you shade it in very, very lightly, because in a minute here, we're going to be doing some more shading, and we need to see where does the shading overlap each other. Not sure what that line is all about. All right, so we need to now what we need to do now is consider another situation. So let's say that we have y is less than negative 3x plus 4. Y is less than negative 3x plus 4. So I'm going to make a table on my calculator the same way that I did for the first line. A couple of points that show up on my table are 0, 4, and I think I will also plot the point 1, comma 1. So 0, 4. That means I go over 0 and I go up 4. So I plot that point right there, and then the point 1, 1 is this point right here. And then, now this time, you need to be careful. When you connect the points this time, it says that you are supposed to be graphing something that is just less than, not less than or equal to. So because that inequality symbol does not have a line underneath it or a bar underneath it, when you connect those points, you are supposed to connect the points with a dashed line. So all kinds of rules when the inequality symbols do or do not have lines with it. So this time, you are going to connect the points with a dashed line, and you're connecting them with a dashed line because we are not including the values that fall on the line. We are only including the values that fall below the line. It says y is less than 3x, negative 3x plus 4. So now what we need to do is look at our line, and you need to decide what is below that line. Less than that line. Well, less than that line, in this case, I'm going to switch colors here. Below the line in this case is all of this region, underneath the line. So the area that we are talking about in this system of inequalities, in other words, the part of the graph that fits both the first inequality and the second inequality, the one that fits both of them is the part that is shaded in both blue and in pink. So what I'm going to do now is shade, I think I'll do is I'll shade it in green. So the part that is shaded in both pink and blue is the region that I am outlining right here. And that is the part that you would need to shade in very, very dark. That is the part of the graph that you were talking about. Now, some of you don't need to do the double shaded. You guys are, some of you will be able just to immediately locate the part of the graph that should be double shaded. But if you need to do shading on top of shading, then you are certainly welcome to do that. All right, something else that I need to show you. Something else that I need to show you is if you have a situation like this, if you are graphing 2x minus 3y is less than or equal to 6. I just want to remind you of a couple of things. First of all, you're going to need to solve for y. So you're going to subtract 2x from the left-hand side, subtract 2x from the right-hand side. So negative 3y is less than or equal to 6 minus 2x. Then when you solve for y, you have to divide both sides by a negative 3. So when you type this into your calculator, you are going to need to make sure that you separate the top, the 6 minus 2x, from the bottom with its own set of parentheses. Now, the thing that I need to remind you about mostly is that when you divide by a negative number, you have to remember that you need to switch the direction of your sign. So no longer will your sign be less than or equal to, it will say greater than or equal to. So you actually, in this case, are graphing y is greater than or equal to 6 minus 2x divided by negative 3. We have talked about this before, not a lot, but a few different times. You need to remember that if you divide by a negative number, you must switch the direction of the sign. Now you do the problem exactly the same way that you normally would do. Go to y equals, make a table, find a couple of points that will fit on that line, plot the points, connect them either with a dashed line or a solid line. So let's talk about that again for a second. If the inequality is just a less than or a greater than, you are going to need to use a dashed line. If it says less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, that is when you have to use a solid line. Don't forget those little pieces of information. Also, remember, if you have to divide by a negative number to solve for y, you must switch the direction of the sign. So two pieces of information there that are maybe going to cause some of you some grief.